Accused of pulling the trigger when the movie set employee died. Now, more than a year later, the Wall Street Journal has just exclusively reported Alec Baldwin will face criminal charges. We are set to hear at any moment directly from the New Mexico District Attorney.
Good evening from Washington. I'm Larry O'Connor, and we have a huge development out of Santa Fe, New Mexico, a case that we've been covering quite a bit on the program. This, of course, involves the shooting death of a crew member of the Rust film starring Alec Baldwin. This woman was killed at the hands of Alec Baldwin, but the big question was, will he be charged with any sort of criminal responsibility? And the DA in Santa Fe announced today, yes. In fact, he would be charged criminally, involuntary manslaughter. Joining us right now is Emily Miller, who's been covering this story like no one else. Her website, by the way, emilyspost.com. It's a great website for this and any other stories that she's covering here in the D.C. and nationally. Emily, thanks for joining us. Are you surprised by this development?
Just one clarification, my website is emilypostnews.com.
Thank you.
And I have an entire section on Alec Baldwin and all my reporting since October 2021 when he tragically killed Halyna Hutchins on the set of the Rust movie set. He then told the sheriff that he did not know the gun was loaded, but he did not check if the gun was loaded. He pointed it directly at Halyna. He then claimed that she told him to do it. And he did not check the gun. And he also said he didn't pull the trigger, which the FBI has said since then that he did pull the trigger. So all these things have come out. And so the DA in New Mexico has said that he's getting charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter. Yeah,
and Emily, and by the way, everyone should know, Emily wrote a great book about her process of getting a concealed permit in D.C., which, you know, up until that point, I think you were the first person to actually be able to get one of these permits in D.C.
First woman, 13th person, not that I'm competing or anything.
The book is called Emily Gets Her Gun, but I put that out there because you understand gun laws. You went through the entire process in a place like D.C., which was so restrictive. So you described exactly what happened on the set and the conflicting stories. So let's bring up the definition of involuntary manslaughter, if we could. Involuntary manslaughter, defined as an unintentional killing that results from recklessness or criminal negligence. Based on how you just described the events on set that day, it sounds, Emily Miller, like they got it right. This was either criminal negligence or recklessness, since he didn't check that gun to see if it was loaded. You hand somebody a weapon and say, hey, it's unloaded, and then you point it at somebody and shoot them, it's still on you, right?
Yeah, I mean, these are, of course, charges, and he's innocent until proven guilty. They're most likely, I just spoke with a lawyer who's connected with this case, and he said that most likely Baldwin will not plea. His next step is going to have to go to New Mexico and make an appearance and put in his plea, which we'll assume is not guilty. And then he's going to, this could go to trial. This could go to jury trial. This is what is, since he has repeatedly said he's not accepting any charges, that's what's expected to go next.
He's been kind of cocky lately. He's been putting out there that he's got inside sources. Oh, I'm not going to get charged. I'm not going to get charged. Clearly, they were wrong. But this really does sort of whittle away at the public posture that he's had, doesn't it, Emily?
Yeah, I mean, obviously his lawyers, I mean, they probably knew about this for a few days or a couple of weeks, but, Alec Baldwin's lawyers have continually said that he's not guilty, but more so their uncontrollable client, Alec Baldwin, has gone on TV since his first ABC News interview, which was December, just 1 month after the shooting, and said, I'm not getting charged. I didn't pull the trigger. I didn't do anything wrong. It's not my fault. I have higher staff on the crew who are supposed to check the ammo, who are supposed to hand me an empty gun. So he's blamed everyone else. And his lawyers have gone along with it, but most lawyers wouldn't allow their client to do that before charges have been announced.
Yeah, by the way, I hear from a lot of even conservative commentators who say, well, geez, listen, if they told him the gun was unloaded, then it's not really his fault. Let me just say something. If the scene in question was a suicide scene, and Alec Baldwin's character was supposed to put the gun to his head and pull the trigger, I assure you he would have checked that gun, right? I mean, that's sort of the crux of this. This is his negligence.
Absolutely. He has said exactly, it's always the way I phrase it as well, too. Like, he says he knows gun control. He knows gun safety rules. He knows not to point a gun at someone. He knows not to pull a trigger. He knows to check the gun. He says he knows them. So he's been trained. He says he's been doing this for 40 years on movie sets and TV shows. So he knows this stuff. He just, in this time, he did not do any of those things. He did not follow his training. And there's a pattern in all the evidence that the sheriff released of the investigation that Alec Baldwin refused to get trained on the cross draw, which is what caused this whole accident. Meaning cross draw, meaning you reach across your body to pull out the gun, which he clearly had the hammer back and clearly had his finger on the trigger, and that's what happened. That's what went wrong. But the armorer, who's also charged, Hannah Gutierrez Reed, has said that she has proven in emails that she's tried to get him to train for that aspect of it, and he refused.
Wow.
So that might be, we don't know yet what's going to come out from the prosecutor, but that might be the cause of his getting charged.
Emily, I've also read a lot of analysis here, including I think your analysis after Alec Baldwin settled civilly with the deceased woman's family, that speculation was that because of that, because of the civil settlement, the family wouldn't really participate anymore in this, and they wouldn't press charges or really cooperate with prosecutors. Do you have any more information on that by any chance?
That is an excellent question, and something I've been suspect of based on my sources, that perhaps Michael Hutchins, Halyna Hutchins' husband, made this civil deal that everybody thought was really letting Alec Baldwin off really easily. Lawyers I spoke to said it could be part of a larger deal, and that goes into the criminal side, so that they would make a larger deal, kind of big deal, which it's the prosecutor, the victim, and this is the case, her husband, Michael Hutchins, and his son, her son, and Alec Baldwin, that the civil suit almost is irrelevant because it was not painful to them in charge of his accepting these criminal charges, or at least with the DA accepting these criminal charges. And now that's what I've been assuming, and now it all makes sense.
Yeah, and
the lawyers.
And I'm hoping that the district attorney's office said, listen, if this wasn't a film set, and if this wasn't Alec Baldwin, and these exact same circumstances happened, absolutely this would be a criminal act. It took them long enough, but I'm glad they got to that point. One other question, I got friends who are actors in the entertainment business. They say in California this never would have happened because California has such strict rules specific to movie sets, and I know a lot of people are saying, well, we need reforms in how films go about doing these things. The rules are there, they just weren't followed in this set, right? That really is part of the problem here, Emily?
Yeah, the rules are under SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, and I mean, they're not laws, they're rules of the set. And so this was an independent movie. It was done on the cheap, and there's some corners, allegedly, these people have been criminally charged now. Yeah. Allegedly, there's some corners cut. But at this point, I think the most important point you made is that the public has been so engaged in this whole situation, the shooting, death, because it seemed like two systems of justice. It seemed like the rich, powerful actor would get a movie star, would get away with it. And now it's showing that really justice is blind. And obviously, he's not been convicted. He's innocent now, presumed innocent. However, just being criminally charged is such a shock.
It is. It's a surprising development, especially because we're so used to the two tiers of justice. At least in Santa Fe, it seems to happen properly. Maybe the DOJ here in Washington could follow suit. Thank you, Emily Miller, EmilyPostNews.com. More to come on O'Connor Tonight.